final talk of this symposium, and we have with us Shri Jayakumar Ammangudi ji. Thank you very much, Jayakumar ji, for making time for this session. It is always a pleasure to have you. Shri Jayakumar ji is the founder and managing trustee of Asha Seva Kendram, an institute of Vedanta, Samskrita and history, which every year conducts 15 to 20 courses. He studied Vedanta and Samskrita under Puja Swami Dayanand Saraswati ji and his senior Swamijis for 20 years. He was a chemical engineer from IIT and Purdue. He studied and worked in the US for 30 years. Later, he returned to India and studied the long-term Vedanta course at Asha Vidya Gurukulam, Coimbatore. And since then, he has been teaching Vedanta, Samskrita, giving talks, motivational talks, and talks on civilizational moorings on Bharata and many other activities. We are very grateful to you, Jayakumarji, for making time. We are very glad to have you. Please go ahead and start your session. Jayakumarji will be speaking on Atmabodha, on the uniqueness of Atmabodha. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Nitinji. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Yeah.
Thank you. Hari Om. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. So today I've chosen the topic of Atmabodha and how Atmabodha is unique. Actually speaking, every text of Adi Shankaracharya is unique. So it is going to be a difficult thing to say that one particular text is unique in general. But what I'm going to do is show you some aspects of Atmabodha and maybe compare it with another text like Dakshinamurti Stotram. And that way, when you compare two texts, then you can see some of the so-called unique features of Atmabodha. And I chose Atmabodha for actually a very emotional reason. Okay, so when I first got exposed to Vedanta, I had been to the ashram, and Swamiji was teaching Brihadaranyaka Upanishad for a 1 week camp, and I at that time I knew nothing about Vedanta, nothing about Veda. I mean, I had my own perplexities and conflicts, but knew nothing. Shankaracharya I had heard about. Then during the course of that week, I started, Swamiji was doing a wonder on me. And then I realized that there's something too much in this. So I went to the bookstore because I had to go back, I have to drive back to my home, which is some 600 miles it was. So I may not come back immediately. So I decided I have to take with me some books and those days some audio cassettes. So I went to the bookstore and asked him, give me all the texts which have the word Atma in it, Advaita in it, something like that. I asked him, and the bookstore wala was just perplexed. I was not perplexed. He was perplexed. I was perplexed due to other reasons, but he was perplexed. What kind of question is this? Then he went around and he gave me all this book, Atmabodha and all that. And then I listened to Swamiji's Atmabodha that week, the weeks following that. Those days, audio cassettes, So that Atmabodha became very dear to me. Anyway, so as the text, as the title indicates, it is Bodha of Atma, knowledge of Atma. Okay, so Atma Vicharaha, you can say. And so that's a unique aspect, which is Atma is the topic, Tvam-pada Vicharaha. In Tattvamasi, Tvam, the Tvam-pada Vicharaha. Whereas if you look at Dakshinamurti Stotram, it starts with Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari and so forth. So it's Tatpada Vicharaha. Okay, that's one factor, one aspect. And as you all know, this Advaita Vedanta is probably the only Siddhanta that talks about solving an as though problem with an as though solution to produce an as though moksha. As though eva is a very important word in our in Advaita Vedanta. And so uh, that as though solution, as though moksha is so important. And so that siddha vishaya, it is unfolding the siddha vishaya. And so how can something I know, just by knowing I get moksha? That is really what it is finally. And so that's because I don't know what I am already. And so when I don't know what I am, I'm going to keep seeking that so-called ananda constantly. And so, and not knowing that ananda is right here. My nature in fact is ananda. Therefore avidya becomes an important aspect. So moola vidya, etc., there are words used here. And so ignorance. So Tvampada Vicharaha, then Shankaracharya, it talks about avidya. Okay. And then another unique aspect of Atmabodha is it's a methodical presentation. How a beginner should be told. Told what the problem is, why the problem arose, how to address the problem, how to solve the problem, what is the result of solving the problem. Like that, the methodical unfoldment is there. Versus Dakshinamurti Stotram, it is not like that. It starts with a bang. So Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari, then Maya Kalpita. Suddenly Maya also he brings in. Maya. So Maya, it takes a while to follow. And so there the approach is assumes there is a lot of background the student has. But here in Atmabodha, no, the beginner or the intermediate student can pick up the text and learn from a teacher. So that's one difference, systematic unfoldment of the teaching. And this this text is really unique in another factor, which is every other shloka, if not every shloka, Shankaracharya gives an example, metaphor, similes, constantly, like dream and like moon and moving moon and water and reflection, like this keeps on giving examples. That's very unique. We'll see that shortly. Okay. And therefore, that is one unique thing. And so the other final unique thing I wanted to say is Atmabodha is meant for a beginner or an intermediate student, while other texts like Upadesh Sahasri and Dakshinamurti Stotram and all, generally for an intermediate and advanced student. And so these are some things we see in Shankaracharya's Prakarana Granthaha. Okay, so I don't have to introduce the word Prakarana Grantha and all that, because our speakers have already done that, and just the previous speaker also did that, quoting Anandagiri. And I am reminded of, when I was doing my PhD, I was asked to give a presentation before even finishing PhD, some paper we were going to write. So we went to a big conference. That was my first conference attendance, and I'm supposed to speak also. So I'm a bit apprehensive about all these things. You got all these jambavans, all the big professors from different universities, chemical engineering department, and all talking. And so I was sitting there. My turn was about to come, and the previous speaker was another big professor, established professor, and who was just writing his slides just half an hour before the talk. It means he knows everything. All he has to do is write. Those days, transparencies. Okay, and then he comes there, and we were given 20 minutes each, and though he says, due to the ruthlessness of the organizers, I'm going to skip the introductory slide. Wow. So because you know the topic, you know everything. So why should I talk about that, right? Like that he said. So that so all these short talks, 20 minutes, 30 minutes and all, sometimes we have to decide how to do it. There is a joke. This Pascal, there is a guy called Pascal. I remember this quote. And the Pascal wrote a letter to his friend, and he wrote a 7, 8 page letter. And then he says, I apologize, friend, for not writing a short letter. I did not have time to write a short letter. That's what he said. So all these short talks are somewhat challenging. Anyway, so what are the unique features? We just saw that, right? So Atma is the focus versus Tatpada is the focus, etc. We saw these unique features. Examples: beginner, things like that. All right, so let's just see how Bhagavan Bhashikara, how he unfolds this text. Okay, the first one is to show the problem. What is the problem? Okay, so this ajnanam, he talks about ajnana. And see, our idea of accomplishments in life is what? Artha and Kama. I want security and I want pleasure. Once I have security, I'm ready for pleasure. And so this is what constantly. And I can't get security unless I work for it. Without working, you get nothing. They say there is no such thing as a free lunch. Okay, that's what it is. No such thing as a free lunch, which is true. And so by doing something, I get something. Karma kuru and then karma palam svikuru. Okay, this is what the whole life is all about. Chakracharya is saying moksha is not in that category. That is the core of Advaita Vedanta. Moksha is not in that category. This karma will give me moksha idea. You have to give up. And so he says, Aviroditaya karma na vidyam vinivartaye. Because karma itself is born of avidya. Because I think I am incomplete and I want to keep becoming complete and fuller and more satisfied and more adequate. And so karma itself is born of avidya. What is born of avidya? How can it overcome? How can it negate? How can it neutralize its source? It's not possible. And therefore, that avidya can only be removed by vidya, obviously. So he says that tejas timira sanghavat, again example, starting from the shloka number 2 or 3. So tejas timira sanghavat, just like darkness, if you want to remove, there's only one way to remove. You can't enter a dark room and say there's no light, and so I'm going to start doing Shirsasana or something like that, or do pranayama, 100 pranayamas. You can feel light after doing 100 pranayamas, but there won't be any light. Correct? And so Tejas Timira Sangavati, just like darkness and light are opposites of each other. You need Vidya to counter Avidya. Karma cannot do that. So that's a huge topic, obviously. And so he introduces that. Then he gives some examples about Megha Paye Amshuman. So just like the sun is covered by clouds, but that doesn't mean sun is gone. Doesn't mean sunlight doesn't exist or sun doesn't exist. And so also Atma is always there, and Atma is clouded, as it were, by my own ignorance. And so that ignorance has to go. Like that, he gives an example. All right. Then next step is adhyasa. Okay, how does that avidya create this problem of samsara for me? Okay, if somebody asks, then another famous shloka, samsara swapna tulyo hi. Samsara means the life of becoming. I want this, I got it, I did not get it, I want this, etc. Constant life of becoming. Samsara, right? Samsara. Swami Paramathanandaji, samsara is MBBS. Meaningless, boring, burdensome struggle. MBBS. Like that he jokes in class. So that MBBS samsara. Okay. Swapna tulyohi. Hey, it is like a dream. It is like a dream, he says. My God, how can he make such a statement? And I was in the hospital for 3 days. You're saying it's all dream? See, I'm still, my leg is still healing and I have to work, physical therapy. So much is involved. You're saying it's like a dream. Yeah. So Sankara says, look, you have a dream. Everybody has the experience of a dream. And in the dream, you saw mountains and you saw people you knew, you saw people you did not know. You saw vehicles moving back and forth. This whole drama you saw. Okay. Who is the director of this movie? You are the director. Who is the producer? Producer also is you. Hey, all the song sequences you saw in your dream, Binaka Geetmala you saw, no? What about all those songs? Hey, the singer is you, the composer is you also. The musician is not some kind of Lakshmikant Pyaralar and all these things. It is also you only. You are the creator of the whole dream movement. You are the sustainer also. And so, samsara swapna tulyo hi raga dveshadi sankulaha. That he says. And then he says, the minute you wake up, prabodhe sati, once I wake up, then I say, oh, that was a dream. That was a dream. Until then, what? Swakale satyavad bhati. Until then, it appears real. How real? Absolutely real only. That's why the dog is chasing me in the dream, and somebody in the dream is saying, "Hey, come on, it's a dream. Don't worry, don't run." Such a scene never arises in the dream. Nobody says you are in a dream and all that. Everything is real, and that's why externally also perspiration is there. Heartbeat races, goes up, and then sweating. Everything is happening, and then you wake up and say, "Thank God, it was a dream. Thank God." And so that shows what? There is a reality called Pratibhasikam dream, and then you come out of it to another reality called Vyavaharika Satyam. And our Shastram will say, how do you know Vyavaharika Satyam is the ultimate Satyam? In dream, you did not know there was another Satyam, but somehow you came out of the dream and then you realized that was a dream. What if there was another Satyam, which we call Paramarthika Satyam, which if you know, you will look at this Vyavaharika Satyam, samsara, as like a dream. Okay, like that, a challenge is posed. Advaita Vedanta challenges us. Okay, it's not a cakewalk. It's enjoyable. It's not like going to heaven and things like that, which also is something gati. So it is a karma phalam. And Krishna says this one. Kshine Punya Mathyalokam Vishanti. So you can go to heaven, Swarga and all. We also talk about Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Satyam, etc. We also have many Swargas. So anyway, so that Adhyasa was talked about. That projection. I am projecting a world in my dream like that. I am projecting a world even in my Vyavaharika Satyam. I'm projecting on myself. I'm projecting on Brahma. All those ideas will be there. Okay. And then there's another idea given. Upadhi and Upahitam. Upadhi idea is set. After Adhyasa, Upadhi. Upadhi means it is all the forms that we see is an Upadhi. Forms are all Upadhis. Okay. We say the body is an Upadhi. This body that all of us have is an Upadhi. And then Upadhi, it is a form, Rupa, Nama Rupa. And then what about the substantive of it? The substantive is the Satyam, which is Atma. Atma seems to have a form like this body. Like if I show you this thing, this is a clay pot. I don't know if you can hear it or not. Yeah. It's a clay pot. Okay. I say it's a pot. And but then what about clay? Is it not clay? No, it's clay and it is pot. That means there are two objects, clay and pot. Clay and pot, two things are there. No, there is only one thing. Okay. If there is only one thing, then what we say is, hey, what about pot? Pot had a date of birth. Okay, it had a date of birth. They made this pot somewhere in Salem. Some 2-3 years ago, I had purchased it for my classes. It's useful. And then this pot is there. Then what about clay? Clay was not born at all. Clay's date of birth we don't know. So we use this example to say, a pot had a date of birth. It is going to have a date of death also, but clay does not have a date of birth and date of death because clay is permanent. So we use this as an example to show that the pot is being projected on clay. There's really no independent object called pot. There is no pot that is independent of clay. This much all of you know, I think. This is not an introductory, webinar series that INDICA is conducting. So, if I can make that assumption, then that Upadhi idea is pot is the Upadhi of clay. Pot is the Upadhi of clay. Because Upadhi is also real. It appears real only. So, we have to understand that reality. Okay. And so Shankara gives an example. He says, Neela Vastradi Yogena Spatiko Yatha. He says, I'll give you an example. You're working from home. I just made up this example. Okay? You're working from home because after COVID, everybody is working from home. Now that is changing a little bit. But you're working from home and you're busy on the laptop. Obviously, where else do you work at home, right? Without a laptop, you can't work from home. And people at home are there, mother is there, father is there. So some of them, mother gets you periodically a drink, you know, a glass of water or tea or whatever, and keeps it on your table next to you. Okay. And she did that. She kept this glass and went away, and you said, "Thank you." Okay, you nodded like this. You just glanced, took a look, and it's you know what? You have purchased a lot of juices and kept in the refrigerator, right? Pomegranate, all these Tetra packs are out there. Pomegranate, cherry, grape juice, banana juice, guava juice, orange juice. Everything is there in the refrigerator. So she decided, okay, I'm going to give uh, this juice, and you look glanced, and then you saw orange juice there. So, okay, orange juice. Been having after it's been 3-4 days since I had orange juice. Okay, good. Then then you're having a meeting and all that, and you just took your hand and pulled the glass, and then drank it, and you know what? It's water, pani hai. Then you said, what happened? Orange juice changed to pani? Hey, orange juice does not change to pani and all that. In your home, these kinds of magic won't happen. And then some magic happened though. You look around, and you know what? Said, oh my god, oh my god, you're a tennis player. You're a tennis player. All these tennis balls are stacked. All these, 3-4 balls. They have 3 balls in a stack. Like that. It is stacked, and this water glass reflected that red color. I mean that yellow color ball. Correct. And so it's now looking yellow. The glass is looking yellow. The water is looking yellow, and you thought it was orange. Okay. This is called. It's called upadhi. What is upadhi? That tennis ball, tennis color is the upadhi for this orange juice. Upadhi. And so then you realize, oh no, it's not orange juice. And what did you do? Did you have to separate the yellow color from the water? Did you have to do some chemical processing to remove the yellow color from the water? Hey, you can't remove the yellow color from the water because it was not yellow to begin with. If it was yellow, you can say something, you can do whatever. But it is not even yellow to begin with. But you saw yellowness or not. The yellowness of the ball was projected on the water. Therefore, that projection. So Upadhi projects its properties on the Upahitam, on water, Upahitam. Okay. So that a different example he gives. Neela Vastradi Yogena. So Spatikam, there is a crystal. Spatika Linga is there. Spatika Linga looks blue, it seems. Why? Because you are wearing a blue shirt. Blue shirt. So that blue shirt makes this one look blue. Okay, very important idea in Vedanta. So, so then can you then with Atma, what kind of projection I'm doing? Body is there or not? Yes, body is very much there. Okay. Body is brown in color, body is tall, body is short. Okay. Body is aging. And what do I say? I am short, I am tall, I am brown, I am dark, I am fair, I am old, I am young. All properties of the body. Properties of the body are projected onto Atma, myself. Okay. And by the same token, I am projecting the properties of Atma on the body also. How is that possible? A consciousness is Atma, but then I say the body is conscious. No, no, don't pinch. It's hurting me. Conscious. You can touch anybody, just even just like this, you feel it. Consciousness is there. That consciousness is really the Atma that is lending its consciousness, Chaitanyam, to the body. Okay, so therefore, it's a anyonya adhyasa that is happening, projecting the properties of body, anatma, on myself, atma, and again projecting the properties of atma on anatma, the body. Okay. So these ideas are presented in the next set of slokas by Adi Shankaracharya. And then how do I get out of this problem? Yes, there is a way. Now that you know that it's a projection problem, it's a superimposition problem, adhyasa is the problem. Now what you have to do is you have to, there's Atma and Atma Viveka. You have to understand Atma and Anatma. That Viveka Buddhi, that discerning mind is needed. You have to discern. Sometimes they say discriminate. I don't like to use the word discriminate, but seeing Atma for what it is, seeing Anatma for what it is. That is what is discernment. Okay. And, and so he gives an example. Okay, popular example is there. Sun is rising in the east. Yeah, eastern sky, it's rising. Then it sets in the western sky. Sun rises in the sets in the west. Every child learns all over the world learns this. Then after some time you learn some physics and all, you say the boy comes home, girl comes home and say, Mom, do you know what? The sun does not rise. Really? Who taught you all this? My teacher, my physics teacher taught me. Sun does not rise, but it's rising. It's setting. Look, now it is 6 o'clock in the evening. Yeah, yeah, but that is all as though Eva. It's all Eva. It's all Eva? Really? Wow, you have learnt a lot, my dear son. Yeah, learnt a lot. What did he learn? He doesn't have to stop the sun from moving. Sun is not doesn't move at all with respect to the earth. You don't have to go up there and say stop, 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 don't move. Nothing like that. In the mind, it's cognitive. Buddhau. Buddhau, the knowledge has arisen that you know what? The appearance is like that. The sun is moving. It appears like that. Shankara gives another example. He gives an example of the moon. You know what? The actual shloka is uh, Dhavatsu dhavan niva yatha shashi. Shashi he gives. Shashi means moon. So in the night, you look up in the night sky. These days, I don't know if people look up in the night sky. If you ask them night sky and all, they will ask, what sky are you talking? Only thing I know is ceiling and ceiling fan. That's all I know. What night sky and all. Those days we did look up and all. We used to sleep on the terrace and all. So we some experience we have. Stars and all. My father used to show me. Anyway, night sky you look up and then you see the moon is just going like this, moving. The moon is moving. Then somebody has to tap your shoulder and say, no, the moon doesn't move. Look at all the clouds. The clouds are all moving like this. Clouds are moving like this. You feel like this. The moon is moving that way. That is the example he gives here. Dhavatsu. Abreshu Dhavatsu. Abram means clouds, you know. So cloud moon example he gives. And then gives many more examples. So Kriyarteshu Vartante Suryalokam Yatha Janaha. Like the sun is shining, people are all working. See, he says, you think that you are doing stuff. Atma is doing things. Atma does nothing, my dear friend. Atma is avikriya. And, nishkriya it is. And so, how it can do all these things? Then who is doing all this? Yeah, the body is doing, sense organs are there. Its nature is to do. Okay, that's how it is. And he gives an example. Just like people are working, but the sun is constantly shining. Sun is always there. You can't attribute the work to sun. Like that, he gives an example. And many examples. Back to back, he gives many examples. Sky is bright, something very interesting. Sky is bright, You ask the astronauts, those astronauts who went to space, you ask them, hey, you are you are in the middle of nothing. You're in the middle of space. Okay. The Earth is a small speck out there. Moon is invisible. Sun is out there. Another one bright thing is there. Hey, but is it bright like this? You're always sun is shining on you, right? So it must be bright. They say, you know what? It is dark. Outer space is dark. You know why? Because there's nothing to reflect light. Nothing to reflect light. Here you can wake up and say, oh, it's bright. So it must be past 6, 6:37, you say. Like that, you can't say in space. Nothing to reflect at all. So why I said this? Because that is all projection. There is a sky that itself is a projection, and the sky is Sky is bright. Sky is bright. It's a projection. Concave. All these things. Shakra gives that example. Okay. So constantly gives examples. So it triggers our imagination, and nothing does the job like a good example can do. Correct. And so then he talks about Jiva Brahma Ikyam, because finally he has to bring Tatpada also, Brahma. And then he has to equate the Atma and Brahma. Mahavakyam is there. So he does that. So Neti Neti iti Vakyataha. So by negating things as a, that is not Paramarthikam at all, that's Vyavaharikam, Pratibhasikam, and it is Mithya. Once you see Mithyatvam, then this Mahavakyam will just shine. So he says, Mahavakyaihi Jivatma Paramatmanoho. So by that equation, by all the Mahavakyas that are there in our Shastra Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita also, Kshetragyan Chapi Mam Vidhi, Mahavakyam. So by all those Mahavakyas, this Jiva Brahma Aikyam comes. And very interesting. He also here says things like, Name Janma Jara Kashya Layadayaha. Name Janma. Name Janma, if you see, you are reminded of this Nirvana Shatkam. Name Pita Naiva Me Naiva Mata Na Janma. Na Janma. Then again, this one he says, Name Dukkha Raga Dvesha Bhayadayaha. The Name Raga Dvesha, like that, there is a shloka in this Nirvana Shatkam. So all that Viveka. So recognizing the nature of Atma and separating Anatma from Atma as it were. Okay, all that he does. And Jiva Brahma Ikyam also he brings here. So Aham Akashavat Sarvam Bahirantargato Chutaha. He says that. Akashavat, just like space is everywhere. There's no place where there is no space. Suppose you say I know a place that there is no space. Such a thing doesn't exist at all. And so, like that, aham akasha, that aham atma is like that space, all pervasive. Space is a good example to appreciate this all pervasiveness, sarvagatatvam. Okay, and so he does that. Then finally, he talks about jnana phalam, jivan mukti, very unique to Advaita Vedanta, jivan mukti. No other Siddhanta talks about jivan mukti. Of course, Abrahamic religions won't talk like that at all. Moksha is only after death. That too, their definition of moksha is different. And even among Sanatana Dharmas, that means the many Siddhantas, generally they talk about going to heaven, Swarga, Vaikuntha, Kailasha, etc. So, okay, that's fine. We can differ on these lines. Nothing wrong with that. And so, these are all that's how it progresses systematically, giving a lot of examples. And so we saw that in this methodology, there was avidya was highlighted initially, then adhyasa, then upadhi and upahitam. Okay, and then to solve the problem, atmanatma viveka, and then jiva brahma ikyam and jnana phalam. That's how gradually it unfolds. So, in terms of uniqueness of Atmabodha, then what is the unique factors? So, this Tvampada Vicharaha, it's about Tvam, Atma. Then avidya has to be brought in right away. Okay, because avidya of Atma only is the cause of this samsara, and therefore the pursuit also, our pursuit also is based on that. Methodical unfoldment, as opposed to other texts where it's more advanced. Okay, and also this is the Dakshinamurti Stotram, etc. is a stotram also to Dakshinamurti Devata. And so that not only a prayer, but also presenting Jiveshwara Aikyam through that stotra. Very beautiful that is. So this is a little different from that. And Atmabodha is more like a beginner's or an intermediate text. So with that, I would like to conclude, and I want to thank INDICA Moksha Advaita Academy for giving me this opportunity, and for Nitinji for coordinating with me. Appreciate it, Nitinji. Thanks to all of you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Jayakumar ji, for a wonderful unfolding of Atmabodha and its uniqueness. as you rightly highlighted, it is about Twampada, and that is what makes it all the more beautiful and enriching. Thank you very much for participating in the symposium.
Thank you, Nitin.